Hi, Kelly.
Hi, how are you?
I'm all right. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Where are you joining us from?
I am from central Pennsylvania, from the US.
Cool. Okay, doke. So it's early evening where you are, yeah?
Yes, it's about, well, 6:10 right now.
Cool. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
just gone 11 o'clock here. So we'll just give it a couple of seconds just to let people find their way in and everything.
Sounds good.
On the screen, there's a bit.ly for the slide deck. If you want your own copy of it, you can grab that. So it's just open chat slides 4, and you can get the slide deck. And then there's a second bit.ly in a second. I've just put together a very quick slide deck, so just so that we can get an idea of who everybody is as we're in the room and kind of just network a little bit. Okay.
Sounds great. Thank you.
That one there will give you the slide deck if well, just to start off with.
Okay.
So we'll just give it a minute or so.
Sounds good.
And then that's the other one. There's Fiona. So open chat room 4.
Oh, is that the open?
Yeah, that will take you to the newly minted jam. And all you need to do is just pick a slide and do what I've done basically. So I've done slide 1, just who you are, where you're from, and your favorite tool, tip, or trick, just to kind of share some good ideas and things while we're just getting people in.
Okay.
I can hear that lift. Hi, Fiona.
Hi, how are you?
I'm all right. How are you?
Yeah, good, thanks.
Good stuff. Are you recently minted them?
I am. I was here to support and also learn from you at the same time.
Fantastic. Brilliant. I was just saying to Kelly, there's the link to the slide deck is on the screen there, bit.ly open chat slides 4. And then if you go to that one, open chat room 4, which is where Kelly is at the moment, just pick a slide and just add in your own details, name where you're from, Twitter handle, and your favorite tool, tip, or trick. And we can kind of put all of that together as we go along, and then we'll get started. And if people join us during the session, that's great.
Sounds good.
I just love seeing which anonymous animals pop up on the slide decks. We've got a hippo, an iguana, and a coyote at the moment. Right. Okay. Well, we'll make a start and get through as much as we can in the sort of 35 minutes we've got. I've got some questions that people have sent in prepared. So we'll go through those. And if there's anything else that people want to ask and we've got time, we can go through that as well. Okay.
Sounds great.
Brilliant. Okay. Ooh, let's go back a page. So Slides Mania to the rescue again. God love Paula and her wonderful generosity. If you've not met Paula, she's an amazing individual and does all of this for absolute free and for the love of it, which is brilliant. So I've just got 12 questions and I've left them random just because I didn't have time to change the titles, quite frankly, because it's been a crazy week. So there's the first thing. Make sure you leave time to prepare yourself for your slides and everything else. So do as I say, not as I do, unfortunately. So we're just going to crack through each one, really. And what I've done is I've pulled together the main themes from different questions and kind of pulled them all together. So one of the questions that came up quite a lot was how many people should attend a session that I run, and that's obviously difficult at the moment because things aren't normal. But essentially, there isn't an ideal number. It really depends on what you're doing and depends on your own level of comfort. A one-to-one session is absolutely fine. Whether that's face-to-face or virtual, doesn't matter at all. That's perfectly acceptable. Equally, with GlobalGEG, we got together and we ran the level 1, level 2 boot camps. and we had something like 3,000 people doing a virtual event. So it really doesn't matter as long as you kind of understand how it's going to work. And if you want it to be really interactive, you've either got to kind of keep your numbers down to a sort of sensible number. Sort of 25, I think, is kind of like the top end of a face-to-face session with a group that you'd want to go to, because otherwise you end up just bouncing around trying to answer everyone's questions without actually getting through maybe your content. But if you're doing something online and there's a team of you and you've got people that can be handling questions and keeping an eye on things and everything else, you can go much bigger, obviously. And training doesn't have to be done on your own. That's the most important thing, first of all. And of course, you have to do some training to become a trainer in the first place. So a really good thing to do is to kind of bring other people who might be sort of level 2 online with you to do a lot of that management side of things to let you get on with the main focus, if you like. But certainly I would say my favorite sessions are between sort of 8 and sort of 16 people. I think that gives you a nice number, and then you can pair people up quite nicely. And what you'll find is within no time at all, if you've got the right sort of group and the right sort of atmosphere, it does depend on their prior knowledge, but they'll start to help each other out as well, which is fantastic. Okay, so numbers pretty much, it's entirely up to you and what you're comfortable with. And if you're doing sort of private work and training for other schools and things like that, they should be asking you, how many people are you okay dealing with? And obviously you might want to deal with sort of rates and things like that based on the number of people you're dealing with and the amount of prep and things like that. Okay. One of the main questions that came up as well was, what sort of questions should I ask in my feedback forms to get good qualitative feedback? And this is a tricky one, because there's all sorts of feedback you can gather, and inevitably whenever you do an event or you do some training, some people will fill it in and some people won't. So you've got to try and keep that feedback as short and sweet as possible. So think about how you're going to do it, how much feedback you want, whether you're going to have any follow-up with that, and then actually do review it. Okay. So what I tend to go is I ask for the person's name, I ask for their email address, I ask them what they felt went well, what would I do to improve the training, what's one thing they're going to do as a follow-up, so it puts the ball in their court a little bit, and then I collect all of that information in. I use a Google form very, very simply, and then it gives me all of that information in one place to then review my training for next time. And then I might go in and tweak my slide decks a little bit, or just change the order I do things. But of course, every time you do a training, you might be training different groups of people. So it does depend on the situation. Now, it's horses for courses a little bit. Okay. Do chime in if you've got any questions as we're going through or anything, guys. Okay. Right. Advice for people that don't have ideal school work environment to do the training in. This was a big worry of mine, actually. When I first became a trainer, I was full-time teaching. I was school leader, so I was SLT, and our school PD was basically pre-prescribed. There was a calendar. It was very difficult to kind of slide extra things in there. So I had to work quite hard to kind of create opportunities for myself by having the conversations with the right sort of people. And I managed to set up a little pilot group of about 6 or 7 people with 4 sessions. And of course, those 4 sessions then is 4 hours, and that's 4 trainings. So that's fantastic. And we did that every 2 weeks for 2 months. But the problem with training sometimes is it can be very seasonal. So you might have, for example, September, October, you might do a lot of training. And then particularly towards the end of terms, quite often you'll find people aren't interested. Or the flip side, towards the end of the year, when people have still got to get their PD hours in and everything else, you might find you get people coming along just for the sake of ticking off their hours, and they're not actually there for the reasons you would like them to be there. So I think it's important to try and balance that out a little bit, and remember that those one-to-one sessions do count. So if it's an individual drop into a meeting with one person, that's fine. I wouldn't say all of your 12 should be like that. Ideally, they like them to be sort of 5 or 6 people or more, if possible, because of course what Google are doing is measuring the impact of the program. Okay, but face-to-face or virtual, it really doesn't matter. And obviously, getting involved with things like your local GEG will give you the opportunity to be able to run virtual trainings, webinars, be involved in things like this, all of which can count towards your 12. So lots of opportunities, and within your local GEGs, it's just a question of quite often just contacting them and sort of saying, look, I'd like to run an event based on this, or I'd like to run a Twitter chat, or I'd like to host a round table, or whatever it might be. All of those are options that you can use for working with your training. Okay. And then this one was kind of thrown in there, not quite in this, not worded exactly this way, but how can I be a successful trainer in the future, and how do I develop my skill to train? I think firstly, the most important thing is be prepared. So prior to the training, get a pre-survey done if you can. If you know the people that you're working with, don't assume that you know their level of confidence. So just a short survey, something along the lines of, which parts of G Suite are you aware of? And I tend to use a sliding scale of, do you use them regularly, once in a blue moon, or I've never heard of them? And it's just a tick box, and it just goes docs, slides, sheets, and so on, just to see what people know of. And then I try and find out a little bit about the environment, find out the room layout in advance if I can. Sometimes you get the opportunity to decide how the tables are going to be laid out. So you do get a little bit of control over that, or whether it's going to be in a room where everyone's facing one big screen, or you're sat around round tables, and you might have some control over that if you're lucky. Also scope out local hotels and, your journey time, and potentially flights and airports. I've been lucky enough to go over and do sort of training in Europe, flying over to Vienna around about Christmas time, which was brilliant because I got to take in the Christmas markets while I was there. But that was a case of, traveling the night before, finding a hotel, then traveling to the school in the morning, delivering the training, traveling to the Christmas markets, then back to the hotel, and then back to the airport to fly home. So you do have to be very organized on that front. Equally, if it's in this country, bearing in mind traffic and things like that, make sure you leave yourself plenty of time, and that you've got, accessibility. And obviously what you don't want is, your car parked, 2.5 miles away because you've got a hotel that's right in the middle of the city, but there's no car parking and things like that, because potentially you might have a fair bit of kit with you that's quite valuable. Okay, so bear that in mind. And then on the day, get there early. Make sure you kind of get to know the key people in the building. So who's the IT person that's going to help you out, if there is one? Who's sorting you out with your tea and coffees? Who's organising the lunch and all that kind of stuff? And then afterwards, just kind of making sure that you email and thank the venue and ask them if there's any follow-up. And I always make sure I leave my contact details in case anybody thinks of any questions afterwards, and then comes back and wishes they'd asked it and hadn't. And quite often I get people following up sort of a week or so later saying, I've tried that, but it didn't quite work. Can you just run me through it again? Okay. This was a really good question. I didn't know at the time when I went for my Google trainer. I didn't really think of it about becoming a better teacher. I just liked helping other people learn some of the amazing things that Google can do. But through the trainer skills assessment, through all of the teacher center resources, I learned a huge amount in terms of exploring different ways of approaching things, sharing resources, sharing approaches, and sharing ideas with other trainers, working with people like Dean Stokes at Google and Ben Rouse at Apps Event, and Wendy Peskett and people like that over in the UK. And then through GlobalGEG, working with a whole raft of people from all over the world. I've definitely developed a whole range of techniques and resources and ideas that have massively revolutionized the way I teach, and even changed the subject that I teach, because I'm a language teacher by trade, but I'm gradually moving away from that towards digital skills and other things. So yes, it's massively helped. and it's refreshed me. It's revitalized me. I've been teaching 22 years, and it doesn't feel like it. I'm still really excited to go into the classroom and work with kids, which is great. Okay. Those people, obviously, at the moment, we're most likely to be doing training virtually. And a couple of people asked about this with the pre-questions. Firstly, if you're doing private sessions, think about what you're charging. If you're going to charge, think about access as well. So as a trainer, obviously you get your own domain. Make sure that you've got that set up so that people outside of your domain can join meets and things like that. And then if needs be, make sure you've got trainee accounts set up on that. So if the person or the people you're training don't have a Gmail account or anything like that, you can provide them with one for the purpose of that training. Webinars are a fantastic way of doing it, whether that's live in a Google Meet like we're doing tonight, or whether that's through something like StreamYards to go live on YouTube. Doesn't really matter. Both have their merits and are absolutely fantastic. And I would say, build up your own social media as well. YouTube channel, get that going. Whether it's videos, GIFs, sharing resources, whatever it might be, get that out there and get people talking. Whether it's Twitter, social media, LinkedIn, Facebook, through the GEG groups, whatever it might be. Get yourself known, because then the opportunities will come up and you'll find that you'll hit your 12 sessions. Okay. And then also think about your own setup. So I'm very, very fortunate that I've taken over our conservatory at home. So I've got a sit-stand desk so that sometimes I can sit down, sometimes I can stand up. I've got good lighting. I can hang a green screen if I need to. And I've got 3 screens on the go so that I can have multi-screens going and balance things around really easily, which means I can pop things up on screen while I'm doing other things and prepping stuff, keep an eye on things, and so on. So think about that setup. Think about your sound quality, whether you want background noise, particularly with me. Do you want your noise cancellation on and things like that? Do you want background music? All of these kind of things are things to think about, because virtually, obviously, you may not be seeing the people's faces all of the time. And there is a difficulty there in terms of kind of getting to know the people and maybe connecting a little bit. Okay. On number 7, what skills are required? You need to be yourself, ultimately. Obviously, there's the skills assessment, which I think personally is easier than the level 1 and the level 2. I don't know what other people think, but I didn't think the skills assessment was actually that difficult. The resources on the Trainer Centre are absolutely superb. I think it's important to be yourself. I think you need to be real, be honest. Don't be afraid to admit that you don't know how to do something. Embrace things that go wrong. Laugh it off, because people are going to be looking for that reaction. Personally, as we're doing tonight, to answer David's question there, I normally prepare a slide deck, but they're pretty much just holding slides, because I much prefer to live demo and talk through the process rather than have slides that I go through. So I would much rather, and I say this to all of my trainees when I start any session, I have a plan in my mind, but I'm more than happy to kind of go in any direction it takes them if it feels more relevant to them. So I will just chop and change. And sometimes a fantastic question will come up that will take you off on a bit of a rabbit hole into another tool. But then all I do is I have a checklist in Google Keep of all the things I want to cover. And then as we go through, I tick them off, and anything we haven't covered. Usually at lunchtime, I do a bit of a stock check. So if it's a whole day presenting, which sometimes you'll do, I'll do a bit of a stock check and kind of go, right, well, we'll do those after lunch then. If it's a shorter training, obviously, you've got to kind of condense things down a little bit. But from my point of view, like I say, I have a hold inside, and that's pretty much it. And then what I would do, like I've done with you guys tonight, I'd share a bit.ly so that people have got access to the slides. That way they haven't got to be taking notes, and we can just get in and play with their accounts as they are. Okay. Where are we up to? 8, aren't we? Somebody asked a question about the US processes, which is obviously part of the trainer assessment, and it is really important to know, actually. Obviously, there used to be the case that Privacy Shield kind of was worldwide, and as long as everything met Privacy Shield in the US, nobody really had any problems. But when GDPR came in 2018 in the UK, they decided that Privacy Shield wasn't good enough. So you do need to be aware of FERPA and COPA and all that kind of thing. But it's an awareness. You don't have to be an expert. You just need to know where to look for the answers and know what you're looking for. So, you know, the obvious things about thinking about if you're going to be, you know, looking at using a tool, scrolling to the bottom of that tool's website, going to their privacy policy, having a look at what they're saying about where your data is stored and all this kind of thing, so that you're aware of that. It doesn't necessarily mean you've got to be 100% expert on global privacy. You just need to know what the purpose of those things is for, okay? And then engaging training, it's obviously difficult because we've got a very, very short amount of time tonight. What I would normally do is start training off with some kind of game. And if it's a big group of people, I'll play something like rock, paper, scissors with, you know, you play with the person closest to you. And then whoever loses, they join their team, and you end up with teams cheering each other on. And then you come down to a head-to-head and a winner. I always try and make sure I've got some swag of some description just to give out, whether it's, you know, a Google Pad or a Google Pen, or whether it's some stickers or whatever it might be. Just something to give away to kind of make people think, yeah, I got that at that training. So try and make it relaxed, make it open, make it fun, non-judgmental. As I said, be flexible with it, but be real, and try and think about making it transferable as well. So, you know, skills that you learn in docs are going to transfer into sheets, are going to transfer into slides and everywhere else. So you haven't got to cover everything all the way through. Yeah, you can, to answer Fiona's question there, you can get swag from the Google store. So you can order like swag packs. It's expensive, not going to lie. If you're doing it for a training partner, so if you've got somebody like Canopy or Apps Events or other training partners who've asked you to run some training, normally they'll provide the swag and get it sent to the venue, and you just like sort it out when you get there. But what I try and do is whenever I go to Google or whenever I go to anywhere like that, I try and kind of pick up as much swag as I can, and then I can dish it out when I'm doing my training. So I've got about sort of 15 notebooks and a few pens and things like that I just use. You know, and everyone's happy to get a notebook or a pen or a sticker or whatever. It doesn't have to be, you know, costing a fortune. It's just something as a nice little token for people for buying in and getting involved. Okay. The main thing is to be open. You know, talk about the struggles you had when you started out and your own journey. I think the most important thing is stories. You know, if you can tell stories about how this has changed the way somebody's done something, or how, you know, a process has become more simple because of using this particular tool, or how a group of people are now working more effectively because they're using a chat room rather than emailing each other, or because they're using collaborative docs or a shared drive, and now they know where everything is really easily. So try and make it as real as possible. As I said earlier, investigate the area, do a pre-survey of the delegates if you can. They won't always fill it in, but I always send one. And even if all you get back is a couple of responses, it gives you an idea of the level of use that people have got and their own awareness. But do also find out about things like the firewalls. You know, if you're going physically to a venue, have they got like smooth wall or something like that in place that's going to block certain websites that you might need to be able to access? So get in touch with the hosts and make sure that those are permitted, so you're not scuppered and you're in the middle of your training. You go, and if we visit this website and you can't get through to it because it's blocked and things like that. So it's always worth doing that in advance. I have been at trainings where people have been said, for example, well, let's go and use Google Meet, and Google Meet has been blocked and they've not been able to demonstrate it. And that was one of the main features that they wanted to know about. So it's always good to kind of find that thing out. I always get there about an hour early just because I'm a bit sad like that. So I'll try and get to the venue an hour early. I'll plug everything in. I'll make sure everything's working. I'll play the sound as loud as I can and walk around the room to see what the acoustics are like. I'll always carry extra adapters, HDMI cables, VGA cables, extra connectors, my own little clicker, all of these kind of things, even an extension lead, because you never know where you're going to be positioned and how much you've got in terms of flexibility on where you're going to be and how much you're going to plug in. And the last thing you want is your laptop dying 10 minutes before the end and things like that. So I always make sure I carry those and headphones and things like that, just in case, because you never know when they might be useful. Okay. How are we doing on time? Getting there. Trainer benefits, really, really good. You do get free product licenses. And May, who's in charge of the trainer program, has done a fantastic job this year of bringing on board loads and loads of edtech companies to give trainer perks to people. So there's a fantastic array of trainer perks available on the Trainer Hub, which is on that link there. So you can go on there and you can see everything that you get access to as a trainer. There's obviously as well the trainer community, which you've probably already seen. And if you haven't set up your filters yet, I'm sure you'll be keen to, because it does go berserk. I don't know how many emails a day there are on that thing, but it is huge. So I tend to kind of just dip in and out as much as possible. And I've got a few filters set so that I never miss May's emails. And if I'm mentioned, it pops up and things like that. And otherwise, I'll just dip in and out, really. But the great thing about it is obviously you get the recognition. So there's a little bit of validation for yourself. And that imposter syndrome can be a real issue sometimes, but also recognition across your school that actually you are something special, and you are. You know, you're imparting knowledge and skills onto other people, and also an opportunity to develop your personal learning network or family through, you know, social media, through the Google groups, but also as well through things like Google Energizers that they will run when we're allowed to be in the same room as each other, which are brilliant. You know, we've done Christmas parties, back to school summits, Energizers, you know, social events that have been fantastic. And they're really, really inspiring because you get all of, you know, your tribe, your like-minded individuals all in a room together, which is brilliant. That was that one. And then number 12 was the last one. Yeah. And then somebody asked, how have I benefited from being a trainer? I was very lucky. I actually got asked to do my first training by Dean Stokes, who's education adoption manager for Google now, but at the time he was working for Apps Events, and Dean was previously a colleague of mine and also a student as well back in the day. So Dean knew me well, and he had somebody drop out of a training and asked me to do it, and that's what got me interested. So as a result of it, I've changed roles, I've changed subject. I'm now learning technologies lead across 2 academies in the UK, but I'm also a lead innovator across our trust of 58 schools. So I get to basically train staff across the trust every week, which is great fun. My PLN has grown massively, certainly in the last year since COVID. I think I've picked up about an extra 3,500 followers this year, which is crazy, and my YouTube channel and everything else, which is brilliant because that you can earn money from that. You know, you get to over 1,000 followers on YouTube, you can start to earn money from that as well. I've started doing my own podcast, which I just find really, really interesting. Just getting people that I know and people that I don't know, but that I'm aware of, just on for a chat. And it's really, really fascinating and inspiring. And as I said, I've had the opportunity to run training at international schools, summits, conferences. I would have been going to BET, but obviously not. And then actually what I'm now doing is coaching colleagues one-to-one, getting into the classroom with them in a non-judgmental way and just looking at how we can do things differently. And that's having a massive effect on them, but also on me as well, because it's hugely satisfying. And obviously you may well get private work from it, and you may well get the opportunity to get paid for that, which is fantastic. If I hadn't become a trainer, I wouldn't have applied for the Innovator program. And I was very fortunate to be accepted into VIA 20. And the 2 links there, the bit.ly is to my Innovator project, my Tech Buddy, which is a self-paced learning platform for teachers and school support staff. that are kind of reluctant to get involved with technology. And then the other one is the Twitter account for it. Okay, so that kind of covers everything that people asked in the questions beforehand. And we've got about 6 minutes. So I'm going to come off screen in terms of presenting and everything else. And then we can kind of see each other and, you know, we can go from there. And if anyone's got any questions, feel free to unmute and ask away.
I had a couple, but one of the things that I wanted to ask was you were talking about having opportunities to work with, you know, training organizations and things like that. And I'm just sort of wondering how you were able to get to that. At the moment, I kind of do training at my school and I want to expand on that. I was wondering how do you get yourself out there to sort of, you know, get opportunities to work for other schools or, you know, those training organizations and things?
Yeah, like I said, I mean, I was very lucky because I knew Dean, and Dean asked me because he was in a position to be running them at the time. And off the back of that, I've then got contacts with other people that have said, are you available? Can you do this? Can you do that? So it really is putting yourself out there. Don't be afraid to contact companies that are running training and saying, look, I'm a qualified trainer. I'm really interested in getting some more experience running training. If you've got anything, whether that's, you know, just me presenting or you need an extra pair of hands for a larger event or whatever, please bear me in mind, you know. And invariably they'll keep you in contact with it. And you might not hear anything for a while. And then all of a sudden, it's like Thursday night, I got a message. We've had somebody drop out of a training. Are you free now? And I literally just jumped straight on to a Google Meet. And I didn't realize, but it was a live training for parents. So it was a Google Classroom training for parents online across the world. And I was just like, what am I here for? Oh, okay. And it was like, what hints and tips have you got? And I was like, okay, let's go. And that's the thing, you know, you do just, you know your stuff. So, you know, that's the one thing you got to remember. And what I always say to people when I start a training session is there will be things that you already know, but try and take one thing away that's going to make a difference to you. And if everybody does that, then it's worthwhile. Yeah,
for sure. And I think you mentioned somewhere about, you know, doing your GEG things. Does that count as training? Because I was told that it's different because you've got to log different hours in the Edu Activity app. So, you know, I haven't logged anything I've done with GlobalGEG or our GEG in Australia. So I just wasn't sure,
It's kind of different depending on what you're doing. So if you're leading it and running it, it's different to if you're attending it, obviously. If it's just like a meetup, it doesn't count as a training. But if it is actually training, so if you're providing accounts for people and you're actually physically going through them, so probably if it's in a meet rather than a YouTube webinar potentially, then it would be fine. And certainly, you know, there are people that have applied for trainer only having done online training and they've been successful. So that's fine.
Okay.
All right, Kelly, have you got any questions?
You know, I do have one question. So I've been training quite a bit, and so one of my struggles is when I have a group where I have an emergent teacher, and then I have, you know, a lot of other teachers that are further ahead, and it's trying to juggle that time with, you know, getting this person on board, and the others are waiting, and that's a tough situation for me.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's that's why I don't like to go too big with groups. Because if you've got sort of like between 8 and 16 people, invariably you can either get the time to spend a little bit of extra time with that person, or you can buddy them up with somebody who's willing to help them. And what I tend to find is quite often people are quite keen to share because they want to show that they know something. Or they're just like, they're in the same boat and they empathize a little bit, so they will help as well. What I always do, particularly if it's a long training, so if it's a whole day's event like a boot camp, I'll always say to people, look, if you want to grab a chat over coffee or you want to go have a chat over lunchtime, feel free. I'm quite happy to go through things. And then I always, as I said, give my email address and say, look, if there's anything you want to follow up with a little bit, you know, as long as they're not
Mm-hmm.
taking the mickey and contacting you all of the time, then I don't mind following up a little bit, because I think, you know, that's the aftercare that's just as important as the day itself, I think. And like I say, you might get 1 or 2 people contact you. I tend to get the odd email now and again from somebody that I trained sort of 2 years ago, say, oh, guess what, I've used this. And it's like, oh, brilliant, thanks. And it's just nice that they've let you know. But yeah, certainly. And giving them the opportunity to do things themselves, self-paced, is really good, which is where my EdTech buddy came from. But what I tend to do as well is I tend to have a wakelet set up with mini videos, so that they can go away and watch those videos themselves. Because I just give them a bit.ly to the wakelet and say, look, okay, we need to move on in the training, but if you want to watch that process again, it's on the wakelet. Go and have a look, and kind of do it that way. So it gives them a little bit more control. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
No worries. I think we're due to go back into the main room now, aren't we? Yeah. Wrapping up now. Yeah. Cool. Thanks, guys. It's been nice talking to you.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Darren.
You're very welcome.
Bye.
I'll see you in the other room.
Bye.
Bye.
See you.